Good evening and welcome to today's edition. It will be the 8th of the mentorship sessions, proudly brought to you by Absa Bank Ghana Limited with support from Joy News and Joy Learning. The mentorship sessions are aimed for giants within the STEM industry to share with our audience their experiences and prospects in their fields and to give us the guidance we may need to develop our interests and innermost passions. Today we have a break from the usual male face. But before we go into speaking with the astute doctor, who is the resident in cardiology at the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital, as well as a specialist physician at the University of Ghana Medical Center, Dr. Shirley Wiafe. We will be meeting with her. She'll be sharing her life story. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back.
Whoever you're doing it for, we'll help you get it done. Simply. That's Africanacity. That's Absa.
Today, the question is no longer, why do we have problems? But rather, how can we spin those challenges into opportunities? This is the revolutionary mindset we, students here at Academic City, are driven by. Academic City, we believe that the challenges of today are nothing like the opportunities of tomorrow. Hence, we're poised for the future. And so we say,
come join us.
Pakuli.
Yasanyan.
Wiafe Battalion.
Zelfranadia.
Yenu Wizrin.
Brabe Kanyan. Ow, Amansat Shamegoja.
As we lead the charge to empower the next generation of future leaders. Academic City University College, redefining university education.
The Primetime STEM Festival mentorship sessions are live on NSMQ, National Science and Maths with Program, Facebook page, and the STEM Fest GH page, all on Facebook. We are also on IG, Instagram, so please do send your questions and your comments on there, and we will be taking them and having Dr. Wiafe answer them. I'm looking forward to today's interaction with you, but before we go into the questions and the comments and getting to know more about you, maybe you want to share what your background is growing up and your journey to becoming a senior resident cardiologist and physician specialist at the various institutions, renowned institutions that you work at. We are ready to hear you.
Okay. All right. So my name is Shirley, Dr. Shirley Wiafe, as rightly stated. So first and foremost, I'm a mother. I'm a mother of 3 children. My oldest is a girl. She's in her teens. And I have 2 boys. I'm married to Mr. Alfred Wiafe. He's more of a business person. My parents, my dad was a military officer. He's a retired military officer. My mom was also she had more of a background in business also. So really, my background doesn't emanate from anything STEM. It's a purely no STEM background. So growing up into a family of, it was myself and my younger sister, 2 girls. I was the older of the 2. We grew up in La. I attended a private basic school. It wasn't a very bourgeois private basic school, but it was good enough. From there, I proceeded to St. John's and St. Paul's JHS, which is a public school. It was a good public school at that. And I think then we were offering 12 courses at the JHS level. By God's grace, I was able to pass all my courses. But there's something interesting I need to mention. I haven't always been like a straight A student. In class 3, I was actually lagging behind. I was very playful. I didn't have time for my books. And my teacher in class 3 took a keen interest in me. He realized I had some potential which needed to be worked on. And so then he started focusing his attention on me and gave me extra tuition, occupied me, and then helped me channel my energies more positively. So that is where I picked up academic speed. And when I graduated at Basic 6, I was actually the girls' prefect, and same when I got to JHS. And my experiences at the JHS level, well, in a public school, you know what it is. You have to survive, come into contact with all sorts of roughnecks, and then also, of course, there are others who you gel with. We had good teachers. We moved on from that level. But one thing that turned around, I think that Basic 3 experience was a pivotal point in my life. It was that turnaround moment in my life. And so by JHS 3, I thought, and my teachers also thought, that I could aim for Wesley Girls. No one in that school had ever attempted entering such an Ivy League school, but they felt I could do it. And so then, with their guidance and God's help, I managed to ace it, and then I got into Wesley Girls. Getting into Wesley Girls was an experience. Wesley Girls can only be experienced. It is, I don't know, I don't have words to describe my experience there. But then the spirit of excellence was instilled into me, and then I was taught that I could aspire to be anything I wanted to be, from an astronaut to whatever I dreamed possible. It was within my reach. All I had to do was to have a passion for it, and then to work hard and aim to be excellent. And so I went along in life carrying that, believing that I could be anything I wanted to be. So at that point, I decided, after going through SH1, I knew I was more of a reading person. I would spend my spare time doing a reading subject rather than solving a math equation or a mathematical problem. And so then I chose to do biology, chemistry, mathematics as a science major, as opposed to doing math, physics, and chemistry. And that is how the trajectory of getting into the sciences began for me at Wesley Girls High School. And then ultimately, I transitioned into KNUST Med School and then passed out after 7 years. Did my housemanship, my medical officer training, went back to do a postgraduate program in internal medicine, graduated as a physician specialist, and now I'm back at Korle Bu doing a fellowship in cardiology, hoping to pass out, knowing that I'm going to pass out in the next few years as a board-certified cardiologist. So that has been how my journey has been. But it hasn't just been so linear. I think I've always been interested in the arts as well. Naturally, dancing comes naturally to me. I also seem to have an ear for music. I don't have to struggle to catch the lyrics of a song. I just have to listen to it once or twice, and then it registers, and then that is it. So then I thought that, well, if I hadn't done medicine, I'm sure in my other life I probably would have been. I would have been involved in the arts in some way, either as a musician or as a dancer or something of a sort, yes. And I've always liked sports. I enjoyed playing tennis, both at the JHS, seniors, SHS level, and then other extracurricular activities, really. Yes.
No, that's a really great sum of what your life has been, and taking us through from the private, public, KNUST, and then now doing your residency. At Korle Bu Teaching Hospital. Yes, you will pass.
Amen to that.
We trust that you will come out as the cardiologist that you want to be. But as always, we always want to dive deep into the stories that you've shared with us, the background. Okay. Thank you for mentioning the fact that the experiences or the influences from the onset was not necessarily STEM, but we want to understand what value that gave you, what that brought into your nurturing. Because again, our theme is nurturing tomorrow's leaders of STEM leaders. So we want to understand how that mix, a military dad and a business bias mom, how that comes together to support, this journey of yours.
Okay. So my parents typically believe, raising me up, they believed we could be anything we wanted to be. Okay. Even though my dad had a military background and my mom didn't have any science background of sorts, they noticed that I was a bit of a bookworm, that after that transitioning point at the class 3 level, when I really made that changeover, when I really switched. And so for me, I think one experience stuck with me. This story I believe I must share. So there was a time I wasn't feeling very well. My dad was working then. He was with the First Signals Regiment at Bema Camp. And by then, the primary care facility to go to was Douala Hospital. Okay. And so he took me to Douala Hospital to see the doctor. I remember waiting at the OPD when it was my turn to be ushered in to see the doctor. The doors to the consulting room opened. I walked in there and I was pleasantly surprised. I saw a young naval officer in white, and I thought, okay, what is he doing here? And then he introduced himself to me as the doctor who was going to take care of me. I was like, wow, how so very dashing. It left such an impression on me because he looked so sharp in his uniform. He looked so crisp and clean. And something, I think a sudden mind shift just happened. So I think at some point I was like, okay, maybe I can also combine being a doctor and then a military person at the same time, because my dad was bent on getting me into the military somehow, at some point. But of course, he would always give me free rein. He wouldn't pull too hard. He wouldn't tug too hard. So at a point, I was like, okay, so maybe I'll be a doctor. I'll wear the uniform. That gentleman looks dashing. I'm sure I also look so very dashing in those naval clothes.
I can imagine.
So I think that experience really stuck with me.
Right.
And then, of course, the support of my parents. My dad got to a point where he realized that the military thing was not going to happen.
Oh dear.
And so then he had to support me. My mom supported.
Right.
Other family members supported. My aunties, notable of amongst them is one auntie of mine who's very dear to me. She is a pure businesswoman. She's actually a trader. But she also took a keen interest in me, kept pushing me here and there. And so, really, I can't look back and say, pinpoint anybody within my my family circles, any close family relation, or anyone who had a STEM background. But I had all these people who believed in me and who thought I could be anything I wanted to be. And they helped me in various ways. People from business backgrounds, military backgrounds, and all that. And I felt, okay, why not? Let's just work hard and make them all proud since they believe in me so much. Yes.
I was coming to that. What about you believing in yourself? Because we find that also plays a key role.
It does. It does. Because the self-belief actually started from the JHS level.
Okay.
Yes. So I've even thought of choosing a school like Wesley Girls High School from a public school when there hadn't been a precedent prior. So, initially, the suggestion came from the teachers, but I got to a point where I was like, yeah, I can do it. Why not?
Yes.
And so then I had to apply myself. I realized I had to work extra harder than my colleagues. I had to put in the time. And by God's grace, it happened. And so then the self-belief also escalated to another level. And then you get to Wesley Girls and you are taught you can be anything you want to be. And that gets ingrained into your DNA. And then you go through life believing that nothing is impossible to you. Probably like a superwoman.
Right.
Yeah.
No, indeed, you are a superwoman today. We're going to go into the bits of if you are able to stop hearts and start them over again. But having led us into the Wesley Girls conversation, I know you get to choose before you enter the courses.
Yes.
And, well, you have all of the support. And so was that a part of choose this, you can do it? Or you had a different mind, okay, I'm going to go in, let me try. The focus is, let me get in, and then maybe I could do a change or not. Because usually you have more and more, especially girls that are doing exceptionally well, having teachers, parents, you help them choose or doing the choosing for them. But sometimes when they get in there and they may realize, okay, well, I've come in anyway, let me do what I really want to. We want to understand if that was that experience for you.
Okay, so exiting JHS, I was very certain. I had no doubts in my mind I was going to go the science way.
Okay.
But then the decision had to be made between whether I was going to do a math-based major or a biology-based major. And I realized there was a period when I used to struggle with math, but getting to the tail end of JHS3, it was fine. I just got the basic concepts, just apply, put this here, put that there, and then you are good to go. You work your way through things, and then you are good to go. So it wasn't difficult. So like I said, if you gave me 5 minutes of spare time, I was likely to use that 5 minutes to read a book.
Right.
Or pick up a reading subject as opposed to sitting down to work out a mathematical equation or work on some calculus or geometry or something. No. So then I knew it had to be biology and nothing else. I knew I wasn't going to do anything hard, core mathematics based, not at all. So I knew I was going to do science. I knew it had to be biology based. And so because I had these two options, and then it seemed as if our options were cut in stone. You either did math, chemistry, physics, and then ended up in the engineering arm of things, or you did biology, chemistry, physics, and then you ended up on the other stream. So then going in, I knew what I wanted, and I went for exactly that. So there was no hesitation at that point, no.
Well, wouldn't that suggest that you would have done a University of Ghana medical school rather than KNUST? How was that, because that's another experience.
Yes.
Please share with us.
So I actually got admission into both schools.
Okay.
So back then, University of Ghana would open 3 months ahead of KNUST. So my dad paid my fees. I was on campus for 3 months, and I was enjoying the campus experience. The only challenge I was having then was I didn't have accommodation on campus. And by then, there were no hostels. There were no decent hostels around. People were taking advantage of the situation by renting out very shabby accommodation around the environs of Legon. I tried a few and I was like, no, I don't think I can live here. So I was perching on campus. And I was so uncomfortable. Sabah Hall. I had to share a bed with a friend. I mean, there were mornings we would wake up and we would practically be breathing into each other's faces. And that happened for 3 months. I was like, God, I love the campus life, but I'm miserable. I'm not happy. And coming from that structured setting of a boarding house to having to come to campus from home, it wasn't an option for me. I felt the distractions were too many.
Right.
And so when my KNUST admission came in and I'd been offered accommodation, I'd never been to Kumasi before. I didn't know Kumasi. I mean, I didn't, for the life of, I'd never been to any part of Kumasi. But because I was so uncomfortable on campus, I looked at the admission letter. I'd been offered accommodation, Republic Hall Room 1. I was like, Kumasi, here I come. So I just packed quickly, packed bag and bag. I told my dad, you know what? I've changed my mind. I'm going to KNUST. I was like, look at you. You made me pay your fees here.
Yes.
And now I'm going to have to pay. I was like, look, I mean, I'm loving campus, but I don't think I can continue like this. The accommodation situation is really throwing me off, and I don't think I'm going to stay. And so I had to convince him, and that's how my journey at KNUST started, yes. And I mean, till today, I've never regretted it. Kumasi turned out to be such a lovely place. I had such a lovely experience on
Any
campus.
high points in there through your 7 years?
Through my 7 years. So,
and low points.
And low points, yes. So the highs and the lows. So first year, you know, you think, yeah, I'm coming from Wesley Girls High School. Yeah, I think you think you are it. But then there you get to realize you are going to compete with other giants from all over. I mean, it's a culture shock. It's not like being in a girls' school where everything is, you know, you see girls all around, you interact. Here you had guys, and it was a very competitive environment. Very, very competitive environment. So when I got in, I remember in the first semester, for a good 3 months, I didn't even unlock my braids. I was like, gosh, the competition is so fierce. I have to survive in this environment.
Right.
So I didn't have time. I was always in the library. You'd always find me in my spare time in the library reading. And one of my mates saw me and was like, young Form 1, it's a first year girl. What at all are you looking for? What at all are you looking for in this life? What grades do you want? It's like, look, where I find myself, it is no joke. We have the best of the best. They are coming from Presec, they are coming from Augustine's, from all over. And it's a fiercely competitive environment. I need to work harder in order to survive. I wasn't brought here to be just average. I came in to make a mark. And so really, I had to apply myself. And I did. And I did, yes.
And it's paid off.
And it paid off.
Evidently.
It paid off. Yes.
No, but we're still having received a very high point. Maybe some accolades, some best graduating student, tell us, or some low moment where, you know, like a Mensa Saba experience of sorts.
Yeah. So high moments. So generally, I wasn't the very best in my class, but I was almost always among the best. Okay. And I think my lowest moment would be one time when I studied. In fact, I think after my turning point in primary 3, I never failed a subject in my life.
Right.
I never flunked a subject, never flunked anything of it. So then I was used to, you know. So we had this test in physiology. And I studied hard. I thought I'd aced it. The results came. And I had a ruder shock of my life.
Oh dear.
I was like, oh my God, what happened? It was something else, totally knocked me out. I mean, knocked my socks off. It was such a shocker. Then I was like, oh. And by then, because I was so particular about what I wore. And then I was in those days, I was quite slim. And with my long silky hair. So the guys in my class used to call me Chan Chan Lady.
Hey.
You know, there was this Chan Chan hair queen,
Yes.
Susie Williams.
Yes.
So they used to call me Chan Chan Lady. Hey, and then I
Chan
flanked the
Lady
tip of
and
it.
flanky. They pasted the
Yes,
Oh dear.
unfortunately.
Oh dear.
Unfortunately.
Chan Lady.
Chan Chan
Who
Lady.
was-
And so another opportunity came to write that same subject. No, it wasn't like, it was a class test. It wasn't like
Okay,
an end
okay,
of semester
okay,
or no, not
okay.
at all. It was a class test.
Sorry for
Yeah,
you.
it was a class test. But it all formed part of our continuous assessment.
Right.
And then another opportunity presented itself. Well, it was a class of about 70, or a lot. Another opportunity presented itself, and we wrote a very tough paper in physiology. So the dean saw me. I was like, I hope you pass this time round. And I went to the display board, and I actually got the second or third highest mark in the class.
Awesome.
So I had made that turn around. I was like, no, this is not going
Chan
to give
Lady's
me.
back.
She's back. Yeah, and so that was it, really. But I thoroughly enjoyed my stay on campus.
Awesome.
Yes.
We find that maybe in terms of hostel and accommodation, and you use your words, you find yourself in a mix of different people and characters and what have you. Surely people are reading other subjects other than that. We also want to see how that also plays in the journey. And maybe friends, and now that you're an adult,
Yeah.
experiences that come along or have come along or did come along your way that may have influenced this dream in one way or the other, maybe caused a stop or did propel it.
Okay. So I think I was quite sociable on campus. I had a good mix of friends. Okay, but then I always stayed true to, I didn't want friends who would distract me. So I had to kind of like keep a fine balance. But in my room, in first year, for instance, I had a roommate who was studying architecture. I had two other roommates who were studying land economy. And so it brought kind of different perspectives. I learned different things from them. I realized my colleague, my roommate who studied architecture, she would spend very long hours in the studio. I mean, practically sleep over in the studio some days. And looking at her, I learned resilience because it was a male-dominated field at the time. But I mean, sleeping over in the studios, just drawing away in the night. I was like, yeah, I think my life is tough, but I think she has it much tougher than I do. So I learned resilience from her. And then from my other colleagues, more of social perspectives, people skills, how to relate with other people. And then, of course, you learn things that also hone, not just about people skills, but things that have an impact on you, very soft skills in life, which carry you through. And some have been very lasting relationships to this day. Right. Yes.
So as they're inculcating these traits or behaviors in you, is there some way you also impacted their lives? And we would look into your life as an individual and passing out, becoming a doctor, and what sort of impact you've made, maybe in the STEM industry. So we'll connect from there and then into today and what you're doing.
Okay. So what I'd say they took from me, because I was also a bit of a perfectionist, I wouldn't really, in the room when, in that setting, I would always want things done a particular way. But of course, you don't go being too brash and then rubbing people off the wrong way. So I guess from me, they also learned that they could also aspire to be anything they wanted to be, and they also needed to work very hard, because it was not just about having a passion or a vision, but then working your way through. I spent time with them, but then the time spent with them were more like times I had set aside. I didn't allow those friendships. When it was time to study, it was time to study. When it was time to socialize with my roommates. So I set those boundaries clearly. And I guess they also picked that up from me, that in life you have to learn to set boundaries. Okay, so even though we are in the same room, we interact on a very non-formal, a very informal level. But when it's time to give priority, when it's time to give attention to what is priority in your life, that attention must be given. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so that's your experience or your impact on their lives
their
and they
lives.
taking from you.
Yes.
And moving out, passing out of KNUST Medical School and coming down to Accra immediately? Or you did a bit of some houseman job? Housemanship, maybe at the teaching hospital?
No. So, because I was born, bred, battered in Accra, immediately I was done with medical school training. I just packed my bags and just headed down to Accra.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so all of my housemanship training was done here in Accra. So I did a bit of it at the district hospital. I went to West Municipal Hospital. You know, even though I knew ultimately with the major subcategorizations of medicine, which are pediatrics, medicine, obstetrics and gynecology and surgery, I knew ultimately I was going to end up doing medicine.
Okay.
I knew that. But at the district level, you know, at the districts, you are a GP, you are a medical officer after housemanship training. You get to do everything. You get to have a feel of everything. So at the district where I was very big on the maternity side. So we're taking care of a lot of pregnant women and we're going to theater. So I was going to theater. I learned how to perform cesarean sections and to do basic procedures and surgery. So when I was ready to go back to school, I actually thought I could go in for a specialty which allowed me to mix my medicine with my surgical background. It was a total disaster.
Oh dear.
Yeah, it was. It was a total disaster. So then, based on those experiences, I chose family medicine.
Okay.
I did it for 6 months and I realized this is not for me.
Makes it difficult. Maybe we can take a pause and help us understand. Because you've mentioned some divisions in there. And like, isn't it all medicine? Okay, no, we know there's one for children, there's a doctor for adults, there's a doctor that takes care of women. We get that. But now you're taking us deeper. Please take us along.
Yes. So family medicine and internal medicine, there are two specialties which I would say like primary care in medical practice. Okay. So the internist, when you go back for postgraduate training, it's a 3-year course in medicine. So in medicine, there are subcategorizations. So neurology, endocrinology, gastroenterology, cardiology, blah, blah, blah. You go through all those rotations, and after 3 years, you take an exam, either with the West African College or Ghana College, and then you come out as a physician specialist.
Okay.
In like manner, with family medicine, the family medicine is also a specialist, but he has proficiency in all the major subdivisions of medicine. So a bit of proficiency in surgery, a bit of proficiency in obstetrics and gynecology, in pediatrics. So they see practically everybody. But then when they see complications in these fields, so let's say if the family medicine specialist was managing a pediatric case and maybe complications had set in or the case was such that you needed someone who was just grounded or focused in that area, then you would in turn refer to, so they have proficiency in almost everything. And so because I had done obstetrics and gynecology and I was going to theater and all that, I thought it afforded me an opportunity to do a little bit of everything, a little bit of medicine, a little bit of surgery, a little bit of that. But
that's not how it works.
No. It wasn't what I expected. So, not because I wasn't up to the task, but I realized going in that I had miscalculated and I was just an internist. I needed to focus on just internal medicine because that was the only thing that brought me satisfaction.
Right.
Yes.
So now your strategy would
would be, so what I did was, whilst still with the department, I would drive from Korle Bu to Legon campus every night after close of work, and then put in about 4 hours at the 24-hour library, because I needed to switch over very quickly, take the entrance exam for internal medicine, and I had just 1 month within which to do it. And so I gathered all the material, and I didn't have anybody I was studying with. There was no study partner. So I had to do it, and by God's grace, in a month, I took the exam, I passed, and then I just switched over nicely to internal medicine.
So you're an internist today?
I'm an internist.
Now looking at a specialty in cardiology.
Cardiology.
Tell us about that experience.
Okay. So my training as to become a physician specialist wasn't devoid of challenges. You know, postgraduate training isn't easy.
It is hard.
Yes. I have 3 children, I have a husband, a home to take care of, and all, and then going back to school. It practically takes up your whole time, you know. So you need a husband who's understanding to be able to, you know, go through, sail through easily. I mean, it was akin to doing, it was almost akin to my days as a house officer, because the resident, you know, that's in the true sense of the word, you are a resident. So you put in the hours. You do 24-hour shifts, 30-hour shifts. Yes, 24, 30-hour shifts sometimes. So I could come in the morning with my team. It's the team on duty. I stay in. If I'm the one to do night, because of where I live, the distance between where I live and Korle Bu, it doesn't really make much sense to drive home and then come back for a night duty. So you go to the residence room, spend some 2 hours, continue your night shift at 8 till the next morning. When the bosses come around, the cases are presented, and will be tied you. If it turns out that the next day is a major ward round, you stay in until the major ward round is done. So there are days you can put in like 30 hours straight.
Wow.
Yes. And so then you need a companion who is very understanding, who pick up where you fall short. And you need to arrange a bit of extra help around the house. And yes, you need a very supportive partner to be able to go through that rough patch. And I did that well willing for 3 years, and I passed out at the West African College. Yeah.
We are nurturing tomorrow's generation of STEM leaders. We are understanding the various support that we will need along the journey. Yes. We don't want to be biased to say because Dr. Shirley is a female and so this is what it is. But I mean, we understand it is always all about hard work and putting in the hours, breaking your back, as it were, to get really the results that you are looking for, and even the sky is your limit. Thank you so much for opening us up into internists and then cardiology and the different, you know, specializations that we can go into. It's not just finishing medical school at 7 years and that is it. No, they do more. A postgraduate, you may say, and some people even go in to get MBAs and what have you. We are nurturing tomorrow's generation. So please stick and stay with us, and we'll be right back after this break.
Alande, make I walk you through my everyday life. Busy from the morning light. My to-do list long, shadow fit to overlap. So sharp, turn on mobile app. School fees check, light bills check. Do I'm with speed like a G4 jet. You be out the day, I am not upset. Check, I don't even use checks, see they check.
Join the ABSA family and make fast, easy and safe transactions with our digital products. Log on to absa.com.gh. No long thing. We like 'em simple and easy.
Believe me, no long things in my life go like I'm simple and easy.
whoever you're doing it for, we'll help you get it done. Simply. That's Africanacity. That's APSA.
Today, the question is no longer, why do we have problems? But rather, how can we spin those challenges into opportunities? This is the revolutionary mindset we, students here at Academic City, are driven by. Academic City, we believe that the challenges of today are nothing like the opportunities of tomorrow. Hence, we're poised for the future. And so we say,
Come join us.
Pakuli. Huyayi te battalion.
Zelfula me bia.
Bien nous rejoindre.
Brabe Kanyo. Ow, Amanasat Shame Hojao.
as we lead the charge to empower the next generation of future leaders. Academic City University College, redefining university education.
No, thank you so much for staying on. It's been exciting. I am particularly pleased because I have a female colleague in the house and to share with us quite a very inspiring story of coming from humble beginnings and striving hard to be both a cardiologist and a physician specialist.
Cardiologist in training.
Cardiologist in training. You're passing. But what does the future really hold for you? I mean, at the end of the day, say, circa 2023, you'll be a cardiologist. I don't think that's the end.
No.
What does the future hold, and what will be emerging trends, we should be looking out for? Those of us who want to surpass you, don't we?
Okay. So the future for me, I think when we get to certain heights in life, we must find a way of giving back. So for me, I don't really have that time now, but what I'm really passionate about is going back to the JHS where I had JHS, which served as that platform, that launch pad for me to get into Wesley Girls High School, located at La, to work with management of the school to see how best we can help to set up at least a science lab in the school to facilitate the teaching and learning of STEM, how together with others we could resource them. And then my interest is also in the girl child, getting the girls to be interested in STEM. Because I remember then the attrition rate was a bit high. Not many of them were able to make it into secondary school. Some fell by the way. Some didn't turn out so great. And so you want to, some actually got pregnant along the way and all that. So I would like to be a kind of mentor. I'd like to help the school in every way I can by using my contacts to get help, set up STEM, resource the school with a science lab, and then enable the teachers to train them, get them the training they need to be able to teach STEM in a very effective, fun, practical way, so that the students can appreciate it
and enjoy.
then enjoy it, and then hopefully look forward to it as something they would want to pursue a career in the future. So that's actually a project that's quite dear to my heart, and I pray for grace to be able to fulfill it. Yes, give back to my alma mater.
Just to that. So this is us knowing you becoming a philanthropist. Dr. Shirley Wiafe, the philanthropist. But let's look at the medical field and emerging trends on there, because we're all about the in thing.
Yeah.
Please.
So there are so many emerging trends. So, cardiology is just a small division of medicine. Okay. So digital health is actually applicable across all the divides in medicine, in surgery, in pediatrics, in all the fields, really. In cardiology, for instance, now, I think some 5, maybe 10 years ago, cath labs were not so popular. They were really not the in thing. If someone had a heart attack or had blocked vessels in the heart and they needed to be opened up, that person may have to fly out. But now we have cath labs at UGMC, at Korle Bu, and within minutes of someone suffering an MI, a myocardial infarction, a heart attack. Of course, the constraint there is money. It's quite pricey. But if you're able to afford it, at least that option exists where you can be sent to a lab and then the blockade bypassed, opened up via stent so that flow can be restored. And then that patient doesn't lose a lot of heart muscle. The heart is preserved, heart muscle is preserved, diseased areas can recover, myocardium can recover, and then a better quality of life for that patient.
Absolutely.
In gastroenterology, for instance, there's a pill come. Have you ever undergone an endoscopy? The upper or lower GI endoscopy?
No.
So it's this tiny flexible tube
Right.
that goes through your mouth into your stomach. So with the upper approach, it looks just through the esophagus, the stomach, and then the upper part of the small intestine. Then the lower approach actually goes through the rectum, to look into the bowel.
Right.
To identify diseases and see what interventions can be offered to make the patient comfortable. So imagine now there's a pill you just have to. It's a bit uncomfortable.
Okay.
So imagine a foreign body going down. Yeah. So patients retch. Yeah, they retch. It's a little invasive. They retch and all that, but it's a very necessary procedure.
Okay.
Now there's the concept of the pill come. Well, you have this very tiny
Pill camera.
This very tiny pill which you swallow.
Oh.
And which can actually image the whole of the tract as it travels along from here all the way down. But of course, there are also constraints with cost. But there are a whole lot of emerging trends, research-driven, and yes, like they say, necessity is the mother of invention. I remember during the COVID era, when COVID was at its height, at UGMC, apps were developed because we're all morbidly afraid of COVID. Look at how it had ravaged the developed world. We didn't know how it was going to play out here. So then we wanted a system where an interface where patients who went so terribly ill didn't have to come to the facility. And so through COVID Connect at UGMC,
I remember that one.
we could speak with patients. Sometimes all you needed to do was just allay their anxiety and their fear. Because they thought, oh, I'm having a heart attack, I think I have COVID, I think I'm going to die. And the thing is, we also didn't want to unnecessarily expose ourselves, because the more patients you're exposed to, the higher your risk. And so then technology made it possible to be able to just sort out these patients virtually, calm them down without having them come over to the facilities. And those who, upon our interactions, we decided needed to be sent in for inpatient care, ambulances were sent to pick them up to the facilities. So that is how a beautiful interplay of technology in the way we do, in the way we carry out our day-to-day activities as doctors. How that comes to facilitate everything and make life easier both for the doctor and for the patient. So we cannot downplay the role of technology in digital health in the health space right now. They kind of like go hand in hand. Yes, you can't substitute one for the other. Yes.
Awesome. I'm sad we're ending. We've come to a beautiful conclusion on, you know, what next holds for any practitioner, medical practitioner today, and what you should look out for. Technology, as we've said from the first edition till now, being the 8th, STEM is the foundation of everything nowadays. And so you must subscribe to this, subscribe to the NSMQ Facebook page, subscribe to our STEM First GH. We are on Instagram. So you can hear more of these inspiring stories, help you, shape you, help you get the right mindset, the paradigm shift that you had in class 3. You don't have to wait till you get that turn around, you know, and then have a teacher or someone, but you're hearing this and free, you know, so that you can make the choices that will propel you to be the STEM giant that you truly are. My name is Lucy Akosia Fiadonu. It's been wonderful having you, Dr. Shirley Wiafe,
That's all mine.
senior resident cardiologist at the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital and physician specialist, University of Ghana Medical Center. We'll catch you tomorrow at 5 p.m. We are proudly brought to you by Absa Bank Ghana Limited with support from Joy News and Joy Learning. Good evening.
Today, the question is no longer, why do we have problems? But rather, how can we spin those challenges into opportunities? This is the revolutionary mindset we, students here at Academic City, are driven by. Academic City, we believe that the challenges of today are nothing like the opportunities of tomorrow. Hence, we're poised for the future. And so we say,
Come join us.
Pakuli.
Yes,
Batane.
Zafura Mebia.
Yenu Ujwen.
Brabe Kayam. Ow, Amarasat Shame Hojao.
as we lead the charge to empower the next generation of future leaders. Academic City University College, redefining university education.
Whoever you're doing it for, we'll help you get it done. Simply. That's Africanacity. That's APSA.